She hadn't even finished the HR slideshow when she angled her phone toward the window and pouted at her reflection. Peace sign. Overhead light turned ring light. Sneakers on the edge of my old desk like a tourist dangling feet over a canyon. I stood just beyond the frosted glass, watching her hunt for the perfect filter in a chair I'd spent 2 decades keeping upright, while everything around it shook. My name is Claire Holt. I'm 45, or I was when this started. Until last week, I was senior operations engineer at Meridian Freight Systems, the company you never hear about until your package doesn't arrive. I don't have a podcast. I don't walk and talk for the company Slack. I learned where the system creaks when the weather turns and which server needs a tap on the side like an old radiator. I saved us quietly, more times than anyone bothered to count. Do you mind taking a pic? The intern asked me, mistaking my silence for free time. The new hire, Zoe, 22, big eyes, bigger phone, posed with the caption already typed in her head. First day vibes, she said, grinning. Is there like a policy about working from home? I'm way more productive there. Today? I asked. Uh-huh. Not really, I said, but it might be soon. My nameplate was still on her desk. My meeting with Mark, the kind of VP who underlines sentences in airport books and calls it strategy, had been 2 days earlier. Subject line: future fit discussion. His office smelled like orange peels and confidence. He smiled like he just remembered I had a birthday coming up. Claire, he said, voice smooth, practiced. Thanks for making time. I always do. He glanced at his screen like he needed the prompt. We're modernizing our stack, he began, folding his hands. We need to reposition, bring in fresh energy. People who reflect where we're going, not just where we've been. There it was, the choreography. We're incredibly grateful, he continued, but you've been deep in legacy for a long time. It's not realistic to expect full fluency in the new platforms. For the business, it's better to transition to someone younger, I said. He blinked. More agile. I rewrote our failover protocol during the winter storms, I reminded him. From my car in a parking lot when the office lost heat. Yes, he said gently, like he was consoling a child. But culture is changing. He slid the envelope. 3 months. Healthcare through quarter end. A letter of appreciation if I wanted one. I don't, I said. He waited for a reaction. Anger, tears, a bargain. I buttoned my blazer, thanked him for the opportunity, and wished him luck with the new systems. He looked almost disappointed that I didn't make it easy to call me emotional on the way out. On Zoe's first day, I handed her the access badge still clipped to my belt. I left a list of passwords with IT. Not on a sticky note. Despite the myths, I'm not reckless. I rubbed the dent in the armrest I'd carved with late nights and clenched hands. No one looked up. No one followed me to the elevator. The doors took their time, like the building was deciding whether to keep me. At home, the quiet felt unnatural, like a fridge that stopped humming. I brewed coffee the slow way and let the steam dress the kitchen. No pings, no red banners, no escalating threads with my name in them. On the counter, the framed photo of my daughter at 9 stared back. Missing tooth grin, glitter shoes. She's 16 now. I've missed more school plays than I'll admit. Just one crisis, I used to tell her. I'll make the next one. By mid-morning, the first text came. Wait, what happened? Then another. Zoe asked where the shared drive lives. An hour later, Mark told the team it was mutual. Said you didn't want to evolve. I let the screen go dark. Curiosity won once. I checked the internal directory. My name was already gone, like a patch rolled back overnight. I took a notebook and drew a line down the center. On the left, names of people pushed out in the last 18 months. Quiet exits, no memos. Reorgs that never touched the executives who approved the downtime. On the right, what those people had built, billing rules no vendor could replicate without a year of false starts. The nighttime batch script only 3 of us knew to bless in a particular order. The vendor relationships that weren't in any CRM. The right column filled faster than the left. I didn't plan revenge. I planned coffee with people who remembered what worked. Paula from compliance, now consulting part-time while caring for her dad. Amir from QA, rotated out after refusing to bless a half-tested deployment. Jenny from network, who kept the place stitched together with 6 screens and a messy bun. They were all doing fine. They were also all watching Meridian like you watch an ex trying to date their mirror. By afternoon, 2 vendors reached out. Friendly, cautious, the way you ask a neighbor what that smell is without accusing anyone. Hey Claire, heard there's a new contact for ops approvals? We'll pause the rollout until things settle. I didn't ask for that. I didn't hint. People who build bridges also know when to take their weight off. Zoe posted a story that night. Someone forwarded it. A boomerang of her laptop with a caption about dinosaur code and a crying laughing emoji. For half a second, the camera caught a sliver of an internal dashboard. I didn't like her comment. I just felt something shift, like a shelf someone swore was level finally admitting it wasn't. The next day, 3 DMs from inside. Do you remember the order for the month-end reconciliation? Zoe says the new tool has it, but we can't find the staging logs. Then, Mark says we're skipping the dry run because agile. Then, are you around just to sanity check? I stared at the kettle warming again. My ex used to say I only felt alive when something was on fire. Maybe he was right. Or maybe I just spent 20 years keeping sparks from finding kindling while other people practiced speeches. That evening, Paula added me to a quiet group chat. 29 names I hadn't seen together in one place since the last holiday party that actually had food. No rants, no insults. Just timestamps, thread links, a shared memory of where the bones were buried and which ones still mattered. Someone uploaded a checklist I'd written the year the flood took out our second floor. It still held. I slept deeply for the first time in months. On the 3rd morning, I woke to a message from an unknown number. Call me. Then a second. Urgent. Please. I made coffee first. The kettle clicked off. The phone buzzed again. I finally swiped to open, ready to listen or not. I hadn't decided. The number flashing on my phone had no name, just digits I hadn't seen in years. I let it buzz until it nearly stopped, then thumbed it open. Claire, a voice said. Careful. Polished. Mark. I didn't answer right away. He filled the pause like he was trained to. I hope this isn't a bad time. It's fine, I said, though my second cup of coffee was already cooling in my hand. He exhaled, as if relieved I hadn't hung up. We're in the middle of some temporary challenges. Nothing major, but, well, the transition isn't as smooth as we'd like. Zoe's brilliant, of course, but she's still acclimating. That word, acclimating, did a lot of heavy lifting. What do you need, Mark? I asked. He softened his tone, the way people do when they're pretending hierarchy doesn't exist. We were wondering if you'd consider consulting. Just short term. Help us stabilize a few workflows. Obviously, we'd compensate you generously. I sipped the coffee, let the silence draw. He tried again. This isn't about age, Claire. It never was. You're invaluable. You're saying I'm invaluable 3 days after you told me I wasn't worth the investment. His pause stretched. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Claire, listen. No, I cut in. Calm, steady. You'll figure it out. Good luck, I ended the call before he could play the sympathy card. My hand didn't shake. The texts kept coming, though. Not from Mark. He was too proud to beg twice, but from inside. Month-end failed. Reconciliation incomplete. Then, Zoe tried to rerun it, broke half the batch. Then, please don't post about this. We'll fix it. I hadn't planned to post. Revenge by Facebook never appealed to me. But word travels in quieter ways. That afternoon, Paula from compliance called. You've seen it, right? She asked. Seen what? She went live. On TikTok, my stomach dipped. Doing what? Complaining. Something about ancient code and how you left her with a mess. She showed her screen. Claire, it wasn't blurred, I pulled up the video. There she was. Ring light haloing her face. Background a blur of dashboards I knew like muscle memory. Caption. Day 3 and I already want to quit LOL. 100 laughing emojis from strangers who didn't realize the data behind her wasn't just numbers. It was client contracts, routing matrices, financial pipelines. I didn't laugh. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. By midnight, the clip had 30,000 views. By morning, 60. Someone in the comments recognized the interface. Wait, is that Meridian's ops panel? Another chimed in. She just leaked internal systems. This isn't funny, it's negligent. The algorithm did the rest. At lunch, I met Amir at a diner off the highway. He looked the same. Tired eyes, sharp mind, but lighter somehow, like leaving had given him back oxygen. He didn't even say hello before sliding his phone across the table. You need to see this, he said. It was a screenshot from Meridian's internal Slack, a message from Mark. Team, we're addressing a brief infrastructure hiccup. Appreciate your patience during this transition. Hiccup. That was the word he chose. You know what a hiccup looks like? Amir asked. This isn't it. Half their month end is corrupted. The vendor we used for freight audits? They pulled out this morning, said they'll wait until systems stabilize. I stirred my coffee, though I wasn't thirsty. They're panicking, he went on, and they're blaming you. Of course they are. He leaned forward. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. Not yet. But my mind was already building columns again. Left side, names. Right side, what they held together. We'd carried Meridian like scaffolding no one bothered to maintain. Remove the scaffolding, the building doesn't fall immediately. It sways, creaks, then tilts in ways no one can ignore. That night, Paula added another link in the group chat. A PDF, leaked from an internal strategy deck. Header, Future Forward Culture 2025. Bullet points beneath. Reduce legacy friction by transitioning senior staff. Prioritize fresh perspectives over institutional stagnation. Streamline by flattening outdated hierarchies. Zoe had posted the link without realizing it was visible in her story. Someone screenshotted. I read the lines twice, then a third time. Legacy friction. Institutional stagnation. Pretty phrases for people like me. People like Amir. People like Paula and Jenny and the 30 others in the chat. We weren't friction. We were the gears. Before bed, I forwarded the deck to an old acquaintance, a journalist I hadn't spoken to in years. Subject line. Might want to ask why a modernization plan reads like a purge manual. No name attached. No need. I slept well. The next morning, the news broke on a niche industry blog. Headline, Meridian Freight Faces. Questions over workforce strategy after TikTok leak. The article didn't name me. It didn't need to. Vendors whispered. Clients asked quiet questions. The blog headline made the rounds faster than I expected. Vendors sent it to each other with careful subject lines. FYI, seen this? Any impact on us? Like they were passing a hot pan with oven mitts. Inside the group chat, Paula posted a screenshot from HR. Social media incident under review. Employee access suspended pending investigation. No name in the memo, but we didn't need one. Zoe's profile went dark. The video disappeared. The comments didn't. By mid-morning, a message from a Meridian address I didn't recognize landed in my inbox. Friendly reminder that all former employees remain bound by confidentiality provisions. No greeting, no signature. Just the implication that this was my fault. I read it twice, then archived it. I hadn't shared anything they hadn't leaked themselves. Silence is a kind of armor when people expect you to yell. Mark called again. I let it go to voicemail. He tried text. Consulting, half-day blocks, your rate. The period after rate did a lot of begging. I put the phone face down and rinsed my coffee mug. At lunch, I met Jenny at a strip mall cafe where the tables wobble unless you slide a sugar packet under one leg. She still wore her ID lanyard out of habit, even though it didn't open any doors now. We ate in the kind of quiet that belongs to people who've shared too many midnight shifts. "They're saying the outage last night was contained," she said, pushing a napkin toward the offending table leg. "Was it?" I asked. She smirked. Define contained. I didn't need the details. I could hear them anyway. Retrees spooling until the queue choked, a reconciliation job starting without the dependency it needed, an engineer overriding a warning because a VP stood behind him saying, "Just push it. You don't have to be in the building to smell smoke." "What do you want to do?" Jenny asked. "I don't want to fight," I said. "I want a life." It came out before I could sand it down. She didn't laugh. She just nodded, like that answer had been waiting inside me for a while. On the drive home, my daughter called from a friend's house. "Can you pick me up in an hour?" she asked. Her voice bounced with the kind of easy happiness I missed when I answered alerts at the dinner table. "Sure," I said. "Text me when you're ready." At home, I found a message request on LinkedIn from a name I hadn't seen since a port backlog winter years ago. Elena Cho, now COO at Harborline Logistics. Saw the article. "We met during the Oakland Jam. You got our invoices out when everyone else was stuck. Are you open to a conversation about modernization that doesn't break what works?" We spoke that afternoon. No buzzwords, no pitch deck. She remembered details I'd forgotten. How I'd mapped the old billing rules to a new parser without touching the fragile parts. How we staged rollouts quietly on Sundays because drivers checked their pay on Mondays and panic spreads faster than truth. She didn't dangle a title. She offered scope. "Part-time at first," she said. "Flexible hours. We need someone who respects boring stability. Bring 2 or 3 people you trust." I didn't say yes immediately. I asked for a day. She agreed without a sigh. That night, Zoe messaged me from a throwaway account. The note was short. "I'm sorry, I didn't understand. They told me to make it fun." I thought joking about the old code would help me fit in. I messed up. "I know you hate me." I read it twice, then a third time, because something in the last line sounded like she was 22 and alone in a place that eats people at any age. "I don't hate you," I wrote back. "Ask for training. Shadow someone who knows the flows end to end. Say no when you don't understand. It's not weakness. It's safety." I hovered, then added, "You didn't break it alone. Don't let them say you did." She didn't reply. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe that wasn't the point. Paula pinged the chat. "HR interviews tomorrow. Legal wants statements. 2 folks filed age bias complaints." Amir answered with a shrug emoji and a link to an article about rotational exits. Jenny posted a checklist for month end that included a step I'd forgotten I invented. Bless the jobs in this order or they'll fight each other. We tagged it for later. Not because we owed Meridian anything, but because forgetting the past is how you break the future. I picked up my daughter as the sky went lavender. She slid into the passenger seat, hair smelling like drugstore shampoo and sleepovers. "You seem different," she said, studying my face the way kids do when they're trying to read weather. "Less notifications," I said. She smiled. "I like this you." At home, we ate pasta that wasn't rushed, watched half a movie, and I didn't check my phone. It still buzzed on the counter, vibrating against the mail like a fly stuck in a lampshade. When I finally flipped it over, Elena's message waited. "Take your time. If you're in, we start small. Your conditions, not ours." Conditions. The word felt like oxygen. I typed, "I'll come if I can bring 3. Compliance. QA. Network. We do this slow. No performative launches, no cameras, just work." I stared at the cursor, then hit send. Her reply came back almost immediately. "Deal." In the morning, the industry blog posted an update. Vendors pausing, Clients asking for assurances, Meridian promising a new era of transparency, without saying what went wrong. Mark's public post used the word resilience 3 times and legacy twice. None of it the way those words mean anything. I brewed coffee and opened a new notebook. Not columns this time. A list. What a stable system actually needs and what it doesn't. I added names at the top. Paula, Amir, Jenny. Then underlined them once like a promise. Before I could close the cover, my phone lit up with a new unknown number. I let it ring. It almost stopped before I answered. Claire, Mark said, breath already thin. We're escalating. We need you in the building today. I looked at the list, at the 3 names, at the life I'd started to sketch in the margins. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. No, I said. I'm not coming back. He started to talk about offers and rates and urgency, words stacking like boxes in a hallway that never gets cleared. I set the phone on the counter and let him finish his speech to the air. By the time I picked it up again, it had gone quiet. A new text blinked from Elena. Conference room reserved for Monday. No speeches. Whiteboard only. I wrote one more line under the list. Build what lasts. Then I closed the notebook, turned off notifications, and let the house be quiet. Monday morning, I didn't drive to Meridian. I drove across town to a co-working space Elena had rented. Neutral walls, clean Wi-Fi, no mission statements taped to the glass. The kind of place where silence has weight, not absence. Paula was already there, laptop open, glasses perched low like she was reading fine print no one else could see. Amir showed up next, muttering about traffic and caffeine. Jenny arrived last, balancing a tray of coffees because she still thought about people before code. We didn't hug. We didn't make speeches. We just sat down and opened our laptops. That was enough. Elena joined us with her project lead, a younger guy named Marco who looked like he lived in spreadsheets. They gave us the outline. Harborline was expanding routes, systems were straining, and the last contractor had left things brittle. We don't need flash, Elena said. We need foundation. Quiet strength, she looked at me when she said it. I nodded once. We carved the work into pieces, nothing dramatic. Compliance flows for Paula, reconciliation scripts for Amir, routing backbones for Jenny. I took integration, the glue no one notices until it fails. By noon, we'd already drafted a skeleton plan. No Slack announcements, no glossy decks, just work that made sense. Meanwhile, the group chat kept pinging. Paula scrolled during lunch, shaking her head. Meridian's internal audit is out. Zoe suspended pending review. Michelle from HR recommending termination for breach of confidentiality. Jenny snorted. Convenient scapegoat. Amir pushed his fries aside. Typical. Blame the intern. Ignore the strategy that hired her without training. I didn't add anything. But I remembered Zoe's message. Her clumsy apology, the fear under it. She'd made mistakes, sure, but she hadn't built the culture that pushed her to perform instead of learn. That night after my daughter was asleep, I checked LinkedIn out of habit. Zoe's profile was gone. Deactivated. No trace of the girl who wanted to work from home on her first day. Michelle's headline had changed too. Former executive at Meridian Freight Systems. The announcement was dressed up in corporate politeness, stepping away to pursue new opportunities. But I knew what it meant. Mark posted a note full of resilience and forward momentum. The comments were quiet. Polite thumbs-ups from people who didn't want to get involved. I didn't add mine. I just closed the app. By midweek, Harborline's pilot system was running. Small scale, nothing flashy, but solid. Vendor onboarding was smoother than I remembered in years. A partner emailed, "This feels stable. Who's behind it?" Elena forwarded it to me with a simple line. "Your team is making an impression." At the same time, Meridian's cracks widened. A vendor leaked to the same industry blog. We've paused integration due to destabilized infrastructure following recent restructuring. It didn't name Mark. It didn't need to. The subtext was clear. Competence had been traded for optics. On Thursday, I was asked to speak on a panel at the Regional Systems Conference. I hadn't planned to. I just wanted to listen. But one of the moderators spotted me and asked if I'd fill in. The topic: responsible modernization in legacy systems. I hesitated, then agreed. When they handed me the mic, I didn't bring slides. I talked about what happens when you treat stability as stagnation, about why boring tech is strong tech, about why modernization without memory is just gambling. I didn't mention Meridian. I didn't need to. The room was full of people who'd lived the same story in different buildings. When I finished, the applause wasn't loud, but it was steady, solid. A few people lined up to shake my hand. Then I saw her, Michelle, standing near the exit. No entourage, no lanyard, just watching. Our eyes met for a second. She turned and walked out. I didn't follow. Back at the co-working space the next day, I onboarded 2 more engineers. Both over 40, both brilliant, both discarded by companies that claimed they needed cultural agility. No TikToks, no hashtags, just quiet coffee and commits that actually worked. By Friday, our system was outperforming what I'd built at Meridian in both speed and stability. Not pretty, not flashy, but it held. Meridian's press release dropped the same afternoon. They were rebranding, calling it a new chapter. New name, new logo, new slogans. None of it addressed the outages, the clients they'd lost, or the people they'd pushed out. I stared at the bright colors on the page and thought, you can't patch over rot with paint. That evening, my daughter and I cooked dinner together. She grated cheese, I stirred the sauce. She glanced at me, smiling. You don't look tired anymore. I feel lighter, I said. She leaned her head against my arm. I like this version of you. Later, when she was in bed, I sat with my notebook. Not columns anymore. Just a sentence I wrote slowly, like carving it into stone. Relevance isn't what gets seen. It's what keeps running when no one's looking. I underlined it once, then closed the book. And just when I thought the story had finally quieted, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the preview made me pause. Claire, it's urgent. We need to talk about... I let it ring. I already knew who it was, and I already knew what my answer would be. The urgent text wasn't from Mark, after all. It was from Meridian's general counsel. Carefully worded, friendly on the surface, teeth underneath. We hope to speak informally about a possible short-term engagement to support our recovery efforts. I set the phone down and watched the steam lift off my mug. A minute later, Mark called anyway. Claire, he said, voice tight. We're at risk of losing our biggest client. The board is concerned. I can get you whatever rate you want. I let him talk. He cycled through flattery, urgency, nostalgia. When he finally paused, I said, You don't need me. You need to listen to the people who keep telling you the unglamorous truth. We don't have time for that, he snapped, then caught himself. I mean, we need a quick stabilization. There isn't a quick version, I said. There's the right one or the expensive lesson. Silence. Then softer. We made mistakes. Zoe didn't design your culture, I said. She just learned it out loud. He took a breath that sounded like defeat. If you change your mind, I won't. I ended the call. My hand didn't shake. At Harborline, our room grew louder in the best way. Keys clicking, whiteboard markers squeaking, Jenny's quiet got it when a stubborn root finally behaved. Paula mapped controls so cleanly the auditors would have to invent reasons to frown. Amir rebuilt the reconciliation sequence so it could recover from human error without panic. I handled the glue code, the parts that made all the other parts hold hands without noticing. Elena kept her promise. No speeches, no ring lights, no hero narratives. When a partner sent a note, onboarding never felt this steady. She put it in a folder named Proof, Not Hype, and got back to work. The group chat hummed with updates from the old world. HR interviews happened. 2 age bias complaints moved to formal review. A vendor paused integration, pending environment stabilization. Meridian posted a new value statement about resilience that used a lot of words and said very little. The rebrand launched with a glossy video and comments turned off. Zoe wrote to me one more time, from a personal email this time. They let me go, she admitted. I deserved some of it. I didn't know what I didn't know. I got an interview at a mid-sized shop where they do actual training. Do you think I should even try? Yes, I wrote back. Ask questions until you're annoying. If they make you feel small for asking, leave. Find the place that treats caution like a skill. A day later, she replied, They offered me a junior role. No social posts, lots of shadowing. I'm going to say yes. I wished her luck and meant it. The next week, Meridian announced a leadership transition. Mark's photo disappeared from the website. A board member slid into interim. Michelle's post about new chapters sank without ripples. The industry blog followed with a quiet piece. Sources say a series of rushed changes preceded recent outages. No fireworks. Just dots close enough together that anyone could connect them. Elena asked if I wanted to make a statement to the reporter. Set the record straight, she said. I shook my head. The record's in the uptime, I said. She smiled like she'd been waiting for that answer. On Thursday, my daughter had a recital. It's the sort of event I used to attend with one eye on the stage and one eye on my phone. I left the phone in my bag. She scanned the audience until she found me. I lifted 2 fingers, our tiny sign from when she was small, 2 taps to say I'm here. Her shoulders dropped. When she bowed at the end, she looked for me first. I clapped until my hands hurt. That night, Elena forwarded a note from Harborline's CFO. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. First clean audit in 2 years. She added a smiley face, then deleted it, then added it back. We celebrated the way boring people do. We checked the dashboards, saw everything green, and went home on time. I still got the occasional ping from Meridian addresses, some arrogance, some grace. One engineer wrote, We should have listened to you about staging. Another said, If there's ever room on your team. I saved his email. Not as a trophy. As a reminder, people want to do good work if you let them. On Friday, I stood in front of our whiteboard and wrote the only rule that mattered at the top. Modernize with memory. Under it, I added 3 lines. If you don't understand it, don't deploy it. Boring and stable beats flashy and brittle. Ask for help before the fire starts. Paula nodded at the last one. Make that a policy, she said. So we did. A week later, Harborline greenlit Phase 2. Elena slid a contract across the table and said, Title if you want it. Or not. Just keep building like this. I asked for something smaller. Names on the change logs, credit where it belongs, reasonable hours, the ability to hire people who've been told they're too much or not a fit, for rooms that mistake noise for talent. She said yes to all of it. On my way out, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Meridian had concluded internal reviews and would refocus on core competencies. I didn't click. I didn't need to. I knew what the statement wouldn't say. That competence isn't a press release. It's a routine. Unreliable employees like you don't deserve a place here. You're fired. We've already cleared out your desk. The words glowed on my phone screen, cruel and sharp as a scalpel. I blinked twice, thinking the morphine haze was making me see things. But no, the message was real. My boss, Edward Collins, had just ended my career with a single text while I was lying in a hospital bed, stitches still fresh from surgery. My name is Melissa Carter. I'm 36 years old, and until that moment, I was senior client director at Hallstrom Analytics, a Chicago-based financial consulting firm. I had spent the last 7 years building that division. Late nights, cross-country flights, and missed holidays. all to secure multi-million-dollar clients who kept our company relevant in a crowded market. And now, in the dimly lit ward of St. Mary's Hospital, I was discarded like a broken tool. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Not from the surgery or the pain in my abdomen, but from the sheer humiliation. My chest tightened, and I felt tears press against my eyes. How could he do this now when I was most vulnerable? My family was in the waiting room, worried sick. My body was fragile. And Edward had chosen this exact moment to cut me off. I was about to turn the screen face down when I heard a low chuckle from the bed beside me. The man there had been wheeled in less than an hour earlier, pale but calm, his left arm hooked to an IV. He tilted his head toward me. Bad news? His voice was gravelly, but there was a trace of humor beneath it. I turned slightly, squinting at him through the dull hospital light. He was older, maybe in his mid-50s, with silver at his temples, and a face that looked both tired and sharp at the same time. I had noticed his admission papers earlier when the nurse left them briefly at the foot of his bed. Daniel Whitmore. The name had triggered something in my memory, but the drugs had dulled my recall. I just got fired, I whispered, my throat raw. From a hospital bed? His brow furrowed, then he gave a short laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. That takes a special kind of cruelty. I tilted the phone toward him so he could see the message. His gaze flicked over it once, twice. Then his lips curled into something between sympathy and recognition. Well, he said slowly, I thought this stay couldn't get any more interesting. The way he spoke, measured, confident, snapped something in my memory. I had seen his photo in Forbes. Daniel Whitmore, CEO of Arcus Partners, the very firm that had been our fiercest competitor for a decade. His company had been circling our client base for years, hungry to expand into sectors we dominated. And now here he was, in the bed next to mine, watching my boss's betrayal unfold in real time. I lay back, heart racing, not from pain, but from sudden clarity. Edward had always been paranoid about Arcus poaching his talent. He constantly reminded us that loyalty was non-negotiable. He had accused me more than once of being too friendly with rival executives at industry events. And yet, in his arrogance, he had handed me, on a silver platter, to the very man he feared most. Looks like your company doesn't value you, Daniel said, his eyes steady on mine. But I suspect your clients might feel differently. His words sent a shiver through me. He was right. Over the past 7 years, I had cultivated relationships with some of the most demanding corporate clients in North America. Relationships built on trust, long nights, and countless sacrifices. Edward thought he could simply erase me from those accounts, but he didn't understand the difference between contracts and loyalty. I pressed my lips together, replaying the message in my mind. Unreliable employees like you. Edward knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to brand me as weak, incapable, replaceable. He thought firing me in a hospital bed would keep me silent, humiliated, too broken to fight back. But instead, something inside me hardened. The pity I'd felt for myself moments earlier was gone. In its place, a colder, sharper determination took root. Daniel was still watching me, waiting for my response. I realized then that this was not just a moment of loss. It was an opportunity. A door closing in one place had just opened in another, in the most unlikely of rooms. A shared hospital ward. I turned the phone screen toward him again, the cruel words glowing against the sterile white walls. My voice was steady now. Maybe it's time I stopped being loyal to the wrong people. His eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of a smile. Now that, he said, is something we should talk about. At that moment, I understood. Edward Collins had not just fired me. He had set the stage for his own downfall. He didn't know it yet, but the game had already shifted, and I wasn't going to play by his rules anymore. The next morning, the smell of antiseptic filled the room, mingling with the faint aroma of burnt coffee from a nurse's cup left on the counter. My body ached from the surgery, but it was nothing compared to the ache in my pride. I lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, replaying Edward's text in my mind like a broken record. Unreliable employees like you don't deserve a place here. For 7 years, I had bled for that company. I had canceled vacations, missed weddings, even skipped my niece's first birthday to finalize a contract in Toronto. And Edward had dismissed it all with 3 sentences on a screen. I turned my head. Daniel Whitmore was awake, propped against his pillows with a notepad on his lap. He looked more like a man in a boardroom than a patient recovering from surgery. His pen moved quickly across the page, then stopped as if he'd sensed me watching. "You didn't sleep much," he said without looking up. "No," I admitted. "Hard to when your entire career just goes up in smoke." He glanced at me, his expression calm, analytical. "Not smoke." Opportunity, I gave a short, humorless laugh. "That's one way to spin it." "Not spin," he corrected softly. "Perspective." "Tell me something, Melissa. How many clients did you personally manage at Hallstrom?" The question caught me off guard. Directly? 9 major accounts. Indirectly, 25, maybe 30. And how much revenue do those accounts represent? I hesitated. This was the kind of information Edward would kill me for sharing. But then again, Edward had already discarded me. What loyalty did I owe him now? "About 45 million annually," I said. Daniel's eyebrow arched, just slightly. "And they trusted you?" I thought of late-night calls with CFOs panicking over deadlines. The quiet thanks from executives after I solved crises that could have cost them millions. Trust wasn't even the right word. Many of them had built their expansion plans around my advice. "They trusted me," I said firmly. Daniel set his pen down and leaned back. For a long moment, he studied me, his eyes weighing possibilities. Finally, he spoke. "Melissa, I'm going to be direct. Arcus has been trying to penetrate Hallstrom's client base for years, but what we lacked wasn't strategy or resources. It was someone like you. Someone who understands both the numbers and the people behind them. If you were to walk through our doors tomorrow, I can promise you 2 things. Freedom from Edward's shadow and the authority to build something of your own." My breath caught. It sounded too perfect, too sudden. "Are you offering me a job? Here? In a hospital bed?" He smiled faintly. "Opportunities don't wait for perfect circumstances. You know that better than anyone." My mind spun. It felt reckless, almost surreal. But deep down, I knew he was right. I had never been a cog in Edward's machine. I had been the engine, and Edward had cut me loose without realizing I could power something else entirely. Still, fear gnawed at me. Edward will come after me. He'll claim non-compete. He'll threaten lawsuits. Daniel nodded. He'll bluster, of course. Men like him always do, but tell me, where is Arcus headquartered? New York. And Hallstrom? Chicago. He spread his hands. Different jurisdictions, and more importantly, courts rarely enforce non-competes when someone is fired without cause. You're free, Melissa. Freer than you realize. For the first time since the text, I felt a flicker of hope. I imagined Edward's face when he realized his attempt to humiliate me had opened the door for his fiercest rival. I imagined Trevor, his hand-picked protege, fumbling through client calls he didn't understand. Daniel picked up his pen again. "Think carefully," he said. "I don't want an answer out of anger. But I do want you to see this moment for what it is. You have leverage. Your boss thought he was ending your career, but he may have just launched it." The nurse came in then, fussing with IV bags, breaking the intensity of the moment. But Daniel's words kept echoing in my mind long after she left. That afternoon, I called my husband, Mark. His voice was strained with worry. "How are you holding up?" "I'll survive," I said. "But, Mark, something unexpected happened." "You're not going to believe who's in the bed next to me." When I told him, he was silent for a beat, then let out a low whistle. If that's not fate, I don't know what is. I smiled for the first time in days. Maybe it was fate, or maybe it was just Edward's arrogance catching up with him. Either way, the ground beneath me was shifting. That night, as the ward lights dimmed and the hospital fell into uneasy silence, I drafted a list on the back of my discharge papers. Names, phone numbers, companies, people who had trusted me, depended on me, clients who wouldn't tolerate being handed off to Edward's nephew or some inexperienced replacement. By the time I put the pen down, I realized something simple and undeniable. Edward hadn't just fired me. He had freed me, and soon he would regret it. The following Tuesday, I was discharged. The nurse helped me into my coat, the stiffness in my abdomen reminding me with each step that I wasn't ready for a fight, at least not physically. But my mind had never been sharper. Daniel had been discharged the day before. Before leaving, he'd leaned over and said quietly, "I'll have my office call you. Rest for now, but don't waste time. Opportunities have an expiration date." That sentence replayed in my head as Mark wheeled me toward the sliding hospital doors. Outside, the February air was sharp, biting through my scarf, but it woke me up. I felt alive again. Not as someone discarded, but as someone about to begin something dangerous and new. At home, I found a small envelope taped to my apartment door. Inside was a note, handwritten in neat script. "Melissa, I meant what I said. Call this number when you're ready." Underneath was a business card embossed with the Arcus Partners logo. I sat at the kitchen table, the card between my fingers. Part of me hesitated. Joining a competitor could burn bridges forever. Edward would brand me disloyal. Rumors would spread. But then I thought of his text, the cold finality of it, and I laughed bitterly. He had already burned the bridge. I owed him nothing. That night, after Mark had gone to bed, I dialed the number. A woman's calm voice answered, "Arcus Partners." "This is Lydia." I cleared my throat. "This is Melissa Carter." Daniel Whitmore told me to call. There was a pause, then her tone shifted to something warmer. "Of course, Ms. Carter, Mr. Whitmore is expecting you. Can you come in on Thursday?" Thursday, just 3 days after being discharged from the hospital. My body still felt weak, but my pride wouldn't allow me to delay. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there." Thursday morning, I walked into Arcus Partners' New York office. The lobby gleamed with polished marble and glass, everything about it radiating confidence. Lydia met me at the reception desk, her smile practiced but genuine. "Mr. Whitmore is waiting." Daniel was seated in a conference room overlooking the Hudson River. He rose when I entered, extending his hand like we were meeting at a gala, not after shared pain in hospital gowns. "Melissa," he said warmly, "I'm glad you came." I sank into the chair across from him, my pulse racing. "I don't want to waste your time," I said, "so let's be clear. I'm not here to gossip about Hallstrom. I'm here because I know my clients. They trust me. And if Edward thinks he can shuffle them off to someone else, he's in for a rude awakening." Daniel studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were contract drafts, compensation figures, even equity options. It was more generous than anything Edward had ever offered. But what made my heart catch wasn't the salary. It was the title. Vice President, North American Client Strategy. My throat tightened. This is more than I expected. "You've been underestimated for too long," Daniel said simply. "I don't make that mistake twice." I signed that afternoon. My hand trembled as I wrote my name, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. The following week, I made my first calls. Carefully, quietly, I reached out to 3 clients I trusted most. I didn't try to sell them anything. I simply told them the truth. That Edward had let me go. That I was now with Arcus. That I would still be there for them. To my surprise, none of them hesitated. If you're at Arcus, we want to be at Arcus, one executive said bluntly. Another added, Edward's nephew called us last week. We ended the call early. He didn't even know our project timelines. By the end of the week, 2 firms had formally requested contract discussions with Arcus. Nothing signed yet, but the momentum had begun. Edward must have sensed something. On Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in days. Against my better judgment, I answered. Melissa. His voice was clipped, rushed. I hear you've been making calls. Is that true? I let the silence stretch just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Edward, you fired me. You told me I was unreliable. What did you think I'd do? Crawl into a hole? You're jeopardizing everything we built, he snapped. No, Edward, I said, my tone steady. You jeopardized it when you fired the person your clients trusted most. I'm just giving them options. His breathing grew sharp, almost panicked. This is a mistake. You'll regret this. I ended the call without replying. For the first time in years, his words didn't scare me. That night, as I sat at my kitchen table with the contract folder from Arcus open beside me, I realized something. Edward thought he'd cut me loose, but really, he'd handed me leverage he could never take back. The first cracks were showing, and once clients started to move, there would be no stopping the collapse. By the time I settled into Arcus, I had a badge, a corner desk, and a stack of papers waiting for me in legal. No handshakes, no grand speeches. Just a quiet conference room, a pot of coffee, and Arcus's general counsel, Priya Kapoor. I'm here to keep you safe, she said, folding her hands. Ground rules. You bring no documents from Hallstrom. You share nothing proprietary. You work from memory and public information only. If a client calls you, we take the call. If you're tempted to call first, you call me instead. I nodded. Understood. She gave me a small smile. Good. Because Edward will try to claim theft. But the facts are simple. You were fired without cause. Your relationships are human capital, not company property. That distinction matters. It felt like a shield. For the first time since the hospital, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. We prioritized a short list. Clients who had written my name directly into their contracts. Priya drafted a simple announcement for me to share publicly. After 7 years at Hallstrom, I'm excited to join Arcus Partners as Vice President, North American Client Strategy. No digs, no bitterness, just a status change. When I posted it, the response came quickly. The first call was from Angela Chang at North River Manufacturing. Melissa, I just saw your update. We were told you needed extended leave and wouldn't be on our account. Is that true? I'm no longer with Hallstrom, I said carefully. I've joined Arcus. Angela didn't hesitate. Then we're invoking the key person clause. Our board approved it when we signed. Have Arcus send over a proposal. We'll move this quarter if you can guarantee continuity. Soon after, Easton Bio's COO reached out by email. Their message was short and direct. We require stability and senior oversight. If Melissa Carter is no longer with Hallstrom, please advise how she can continue leading our work from Arcus. My hands trembled as I read. Not from fear, but from how fast the shift had begun. By the end of the day, 3 more clients had asked for meetings. Nobody was angry. Nobody dramatic. Just pragmatic questions about stability, continuity, and trust. Exactly the kind of conversations I'd built my career on. Edward, of course, didn't do pragmatic. My phone filled with missed calls from his number, followed by a text. Cease immediately. You are in violation of your non-solicit. Our counsel will be in touch. His attorney followed with a furious email. Priya drafted a reply that was calm and surgical. Our client was terminated without cause. She has not solicited. Clients contacted her after a lawful announcement. Please direct future communications to counsel. No emotion, just precision. That evening, my husband asked quietly, "Does he still scare you?" He used to, I admitted. Now I just feel finished with him. The next day, the first formal termination letter arrived. North River's legal team cited the key person clause and copied Arcus. It wasn't emotional. It read like weather. Facts, not feelings. Edward finally got me on the phone. His voice was brittle. "What are you doing? You can't move our book. This is theft." "You fired me, Edward. Clients are making their own choices. You think you can run to Whitmore and gut what we built? I'll bury you in court." "Then speak to Priya," I said evenly. "You won't survive this business," he snapped. "People remember disloyalty. Then they'll remember yours too." I hung up before he could finish. My hands shook, but not from fear. His power over me had evaporated. Soon after, Meridian Logistics requested a transition discussion. Their VP, Valentina Morales, was blunt. "We were bounced between two junior analysts last week who couldn't answer basic questions. If you're leading at Arcus, we'll follow. If not, we pause until we find someone who understands us." That night, I got a call I didn't expect. From Dana Patel, Hallstrom's senior project manager. Her voice was low, urgent. "I shouldn't be doing this, but you need to know. Edward told IT to forward your client inbox to his nephew. He had us reissue SOWs with your name removed. He's pushing unauthorized change orders to inflate revenue." My stomach sank. "Dana, that's fraud." "I know. I've documented everything. I'm not protecting him. Not after what he did to you. I warned her to be careful, but inside I felt something solidify. This wasn't just incompetence anymore. It was desperation. By the end of the week, Easton Bio's termination letter landed, and Edward himself stormed Arcus's lobby, demanding to see me. Daniel intercepted him calmly. From the mezzanine, I watched as Edward raged, his face red, his gestures wild. "She's finished," he shouted, pointing up toward me. "Hear me?" "Finished." Daniel didn't even raise his voice. "You fired her in a hospital bed. Clients trust her, not you. They're choosing where to go." Security escorted Edward out. He twisted once to glare at me, his eyes glassy with something that looked almost like panic. Word spread quickly after that. Colleagues messaged me quietly, asking what had really happened. I stuck to the truth. I had been terminated without cause, and I was now with Arcus. Nothing more, nothing less. By the week's end, North River had signed with Arcus, Easton Bio's council approved our draft, and Meridian was preparing to transition. Edward's voicemails grew stranger, pleading one minute, threatening the next. I stopped listening to them. Then Dana called again. "Emergency board meeting. Audit flagged unauthorized change orders. They're asking how we lost 3 anchor accounts in days." I looked out over the city. The skyline was the same, but I knew everything beneath it had shifted. "He's going to unravel," Dana whispered. "Be ready." "I am," I said. And for the first time, I truly believed it. 2 weeks later, I was back in Arcus's office, standing at the window overlooking the city. The skyline stretched endlessly, calm and indifferent, while my phone buzzed nonstop with updates from clients, lawyers, and colleagues. Hallstrom was crumbling. North River, Easton Bio, and Meridian had all finalized their exits. 2 more contracts were in the process of being transferred. Each conversation felt the same. Polite, pragmatic, but decisive. These weren't betrayals. They were corrections. Clients simply followed the trust they had built over years. Dana called again. Her voice carried the weight of exhaustion. "Edward is barely holding it together. The board demanded an explanation about the missing revenue. The auditors found emails where he backdated Trevor's employment records and approved unverified expenses. It's bad, Melissa. Really bad." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. This wasn't how I imagined things would end. A part of me thought Edward would claw his way back, or at least manage to land on his feet. But from what Dana described, he was cornered, and everyone knew it. The following Friday, word reached us officially. Edward Collins had been removed as CEO. The board cited loss of confidence in leadership and failure to protect client relationships. Trevor had resigned the same day, leaving behind a trail of panicked emails no one bothered to answer. That night, Mark poured us 2 glasses of wine in the kitchen. He raised his glass, but his expression was thoughtful rather than celebratory. "You don't look happy," he said. I swirled the wine slowly, watching the reflection in the glass. I'm not sure happiness is the word. Relief, maybe. "You beat him," Mark reminded me. "He fired you at your lowest moment. And now? Look where you are." I nodded, but I felt the truth gnawing at me. Destroying someone else never truly feels like victory. It felt like cleaning up a mess that should never have been made. The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Melissa." Edward's voice was unrecognizable, hoarse, stripped of authority. "They've ruined me." "You've ruined me, I didn't speak. You could have walked away," he continued, his tone trembling between anger and despair. "But you had to humiliate me." After everything I gave you, I finally answered, my voice quiet but steady. "You didn't give me anything, Edward. I earned it, and you tried to take it away with a text message while I was lying in a hospital bed. That's not leadership. That's cowardice." For a moment, the line was silent except for his unsteady breathing. Then he muttered, almost to himself, "Maybe you're right," and hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. That was the last time I ever heard his voice. In the months that followed, Arcus grew faster than any of us expected. With the influx of new clients, we opened offices in Chicago and Dallas. Daniel kept his promise. He gave me autonomy, respect, and space to lead without constant interference. For the first time in my career, I wasn't fighting to be heard. I was simply doing the work, and the results spoke louder than any boardroom politics ever could. One evening, after a particularly long day, I walked into our apartment and found Mark cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the kitchen. He looked up and smiled. "So, Vice President Carter, how does it feel to be building something new?" I set my bag down, slipping into the comfort of home. "It feels different. Like it's finally mine. Not borrowed, not conditional." He kissed my forehead. "That's because you stopped giving loyalty to people who didn't deserve it." His words stuck with me. Loyalty. It had been both my strength and my downfall. I gave it freely, even to people who saw it as weakness. But the truth was simple. Loyalty is powerful only when it's mutual. When it becomes one-sided, it turns into chains. 6 months later, I received a message from Dana. "Just thought you'd like to know. Edward's been blacklisted from 3 major firms. Nobody wants to touch him. Word spreads fast in this industry." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I looked around my new office at Arcus. The glass walls, the hum of a growing team, the steady rhythm of work I actually believed in. Then I typed back, "Thank you for telling me. I hope you're doing well." I left it at that. When I think back to that hospital bed, to the text that ripped the ground out from under me, I realize now it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Edward thought he was discarding me. What he really did was set me free. And the message I carry from all of this is simple. Never let someone else decide your worth. Jobs, titles, companies, they can vanish in a moment. What remains is your work, your integrity, and the trust you build with people. Those are things no one can fire you from. Edward lost everything because he never understood that. I gained everything because I finally did.